Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am excited to have my next guest with me. I have Todd. We're not even going to go for that last name right now.
Good move. Smart lady.
I'll let him do all that. But we met through networking. So I am excited to have him here. We were able to kind of catch up just a little bit before we hit record. And before we get into some great conversation regarding changing our mindset, I want to give him the opportunity to introduce himself. So, Todd, good morning. It's early where you are, isn't it?
It's 5:30. The sun's coming up. The clouds are pink. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful sunrise. And living here in central Wisconsin in Stevens Point, been here my entire life in Wisconsin actually. So
Okay.
enjoyed the state. So just I'll give you a little tip on my name. I tell this to everybody. If you think of a dove and a
Hmm.
criminal, Kuckkahn, right? A
Oh,
dove says
good.
ku, a criminal's a con. So that's the easy way to remember it. But
Oh,
it's great
good.
great to see you again. Yeah, we were on a call, I guess probably a couple months ago now, and we've had a chance to connect in between. And love what you do. Love the name of your show and all the great things that you do. So I'm looking forward to talking to you this morning.
Well, I am so excited. And yeah, it has been a while. And it's so funny every time I get a guest on, it's like, how do we get connected? Because I meet so many people. I love networking. And then if you add my kids into that, it's like, I'm amazed at how I keep it all together with people, right?
Yeah, it was on. I think it was on Gigi's show a couple months
Yes, that's what
ago.
it was. The
Yeah,
veterans. No, it wasn't veterans that we were
not the
doing. It.
veterans. Oh shoot, I can't remember which one it was. It was.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where we met. We kind of reached out to each other, and
Hmm.
here we are, face to face.
Yeah. So I am excited to get into mindset. This is one of my favorite topics because I dealt with 13 years of depression, three hospitalizations, and I know now looking back that it definitely involved a mindset shift because I was on this loop of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So, as many people are now struggling, we have a pandemic that just kind of forced us into a lot of things. But as we now look at where we are, it was a drastic occurrence that had us changing a lot of our habits. But for many people who just are tired of doing the same thing over and over again and they want to be more proactive, I'm excited to dive into your 5-step process. So, how did this all get started? How did it begin?
Well, it really started with my leadership journey, and I've been focused on my leadership for the last 5 years. Obviously, I've had jobs and different responsibilities throughout my entire life, but I was introduced to John Maxwell about 5 years ago, and heard him on his Live to Lead broadcast that he does every
Mhm,
year, and brings in some celebrities, and they talk a lot about mindset. And John also has a spiritual part of his life. His
mhm,
faith is very strong, as is mine. So we hit on a number of elements, and from there, just from different people I've come in contact, just like we've come in contact,
mhm.
working through mastermind groups, through reading John's books and so many other people's books, through attending conferences, getting on podcasts, and all the different training. That's really how it kind of started. And I've tried to take bits and pieces of everything I've learned along the way. The way I talk about my 5-step roadmap today is different than I talked about it 5 years ago, of course, because we're always
Mhm.
learning and growing and changing and improving and failing and all those different things. So, but that's really kind of where it started.
I love that, because that just sounds like me, okay? In my journey, just that constant hunger for learning and evolving and listening to other people and seeing their success. There's a lot of things that we can talk about. I think we all have obstacles, but being able to focus on the lessons that we learn and share them with other people, I think that has really been the passion of mine is helping to avoid the pitfalls for other people, by sharing my story. So, how do we have this shift? Because I think about myself. I was 46 when I finally said, you know what? what I've been doing with this depression and these hospitalizations is not working. I'm going to have to do something different. So a lot of people were my age or maybe even older. And so changing your mind just is a big transformation. So how do we accomplish this in just 5 steps?
Yeah, sure. And it's really what you feed your mind, right? You
Mhm.
talked about, you got into this cycle, and I can't imagine what that's like myself, but
Mhm.
you have to just figure out a way to step out from it. So the first thing that I try to help people with, the first step, so to speak, is really working on their core values. What are the
Mhm.
things that are foundational to them, to who they are, to where they are in their life? We go through an exercise where they end up with 5 core values. Mine are optimism, trust, honesty, enthusiasm, and teamwork. And yours, I'm sure, are very different. And everybody has their own core values that are so unique to them. But you really have to start from the inside out. Again, as you've talked about, Michelle, and just really focusing on your mindset, pouring into you. The next step that I talk about really is the wheel of life, or life strengths. It's a wheel that I use. There's 9 different elements to that wheel. Some people talk about a life work balance, and I wish it were that easy. I wish it were like a teeter totter, but it's really complicated. And that's why I talk about these 9 different components. And wrapped around those are your core values. They kind of hold those pieces of your life together. And then for me, wrapped around all that is my faith. That's my real grounding point.
Mhm.
From there, I get into people talking about differences make us better. And, we hear a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, certainly important parts of who we should be and what we should be. And that's really what differences make us better is all about, is really respecting there's 8 billion or so different people in the world, and we are all different. So how
Mhm.
can we use that to make us better rather than focus on the divisiveness and all the especially the last few years, all that's gone on?
Mhm.
How can we flip that and look at it in terms of inclusion and really working arm in arm with people to change things? As we get into the 4th step, it talks a lot about your comfort zone, and we've both mentioned obstacles that we face, things that we fail, how fear can really take over our life,
Mhm.
right? And how can we bust through that fear and get into learning and growth? And then the last step is really doing an assessment of yourself. The tool that I use is a DISC assessment. And looking at that tool, it's a 15-minute assessment. It gets you a 30-page report and really, again, dives into who you are, your personality. And then you can start looking at, again, from the inside out, how you can impact others and how you can work better and communicate better with others, so you can build that trust in yourselves, in each other, and really get into some great results, and even accept constructive criticism, excuse me,
Mhm.
constructive conflict and constructive criticism. So that's kind of an overview of what the 5 steps are. Certainly is a journey. You don't sit down and do it in 30 minutes or an hour, but again, it's a lot of what you pour into yourself and into your mind.
I love that because you mentioned a lot of things that many of us have to overcome when it comes to making a mindset shift. And that was trust, overcoming fear. And another thing that to me was huge was learning to forgive yourself for whatever that was, whether you believe you were a victim or not. You have to realize that you didn't know what you didn't know. So for people to come in and, like you said, it is a journey. And I think in this day, there's so much that's microwave society, where it's like,
Yes.
hey, let me just work with you today and then I'm going to be on the mountaintop tomorrow. So, what advice would you give people, about those core things about forgiveness, trust, and fear, and a realistic timeline on how long something takes before you kind of begin the process of this transformation?
I think we have to just realize that change and uncertainty is out there, and nothing brought that more to us than the pandemic.
Mhm.
And we kind of feel like we've come out of the pandemic, and then gas prices go up, and then inflation, and then we've got elections, and it's just part of our life. If you look back over history, and I'm a former history teacher, there's
Mhm.
been so many different challenges in our lives, so much change and uncertainty on a global level, and sometimes we take that on so heavily. And that's where I think this 5 step roadmap can help you. And it does take time. Simon Sinek has a great, he does a lot of work in the leadership area. And one of the videos he talks about leadership, love, and exercise, and how if you go to the gym for 9 hours in one day, you're really not going to change much. You need to go to the gym 30 minutes every other day over the course of time. And it's a process to get in physical shape. If you think about love, right? You didn't meet the person that you love. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner now. And it wasn't like flipping a switch. It was a process of, dating and dinners and flowers and candy. And I wasn't really good at that, but I still managed to find a beautiful wife. But, it's a process over time. That's the same thing with leadership and mindset. You can't just go to one day clinic on leadership, or you can't listen to just one of your podcasts. You have to listen to all of your podcasts, right? For all your listeners out there, listen to all of Shell's podcasts, because it's a process over time. You can't flip that switch on your mindset. You can't flip that switch on fear. I always like to, kind of use the story when you're a baby and you're crawling and you're walking, trying to learn how to walk. How many times did you fall on your butt, right? Probably 1,000 times, but every time you got back up, right? And you tried it again, and eventually you walk, and then you ran, and now, you can do many more things. It's very similar to that with your mindset. Now, obviously talking about it like this makes it sound simple. It's simple, but not easy. It takes that creating those habits. This morning before we got on the call, and again, we talked about it's early in the morning here, I went through my morning habits, because that's something every day I want to make sure I do, because through prayer and reading and thinking, it gets me in the right frame of mind to have hopefully a great day and get through some of those obstacles.
I love that, and I am a firm believer in habits and, taking advantage of starting your day on the right mode. So there's a couple things that I wanted to get to when you talk about the opportunity of taking small segments and repeating them over and over again. And I think a lot of us want this uh, thing to happen overnight. So, how do you determine or build up the ability to break things down in small doses so that we can begin the journey of this transformation? Because I think a lot of people, they want to pick up an instrument that they've never played, but then they want to play Bach or chopping the next day after they've only been in rehearsal for 3 or 4 days. So how do we find the way to break it down? Is there a formula to that?
Well, the formula I've used is really taking those small chunks of time. So as I began, down my leadership journey, I spent a lot more time looking at how I use my time.
Mhm,
And everybody wastes time every day. I mean, I
mhm,
don't know of anybody that probably doesn't waste 5-10 minutes. So try to take that 5 minutes every day and maybe start reading a book, start reading the Bible, whatever the case might be, and just do it for 5 minutes. And pretty soon you'll find yourself going to 6 minutes and 10 minutes and 15 minutes and creating that habit. But it's small, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
mhm,
Same thing in life if you want to make a change. And we easily waste that much time. I saw a survey again, you see these all the time about how people use their time. And
mm.
this particular one said that people spend 4 hours a day on social media and watching TV. Well, there you go, right? I mean, you could take a little bit of that time. Now, I'm not going to miss an episode of America's Got Talent, but other than that, I can take some time, take small chunks and keep building and building. And over time now, I have about an hour and a half habit in the morning. So I'll get up at like 6 o'clock and again, do some reading, do some thinking
Mhm,
and really, but I started, with 15 minutes, with 5 minutes to 15 to an hour
mhm.
to a half an hour, whatever the case might be, building it slowly. Cause it does get frustrating because we're in that. I love the way you say that, the microwave age, right?
Yeah.
Where we expect, to have our meal ready in 4 minutes and to flip our mindset in that same amount of time. It's that consistent,
Mhm.
slow pattern over time and just building and building. And all of a sudden you look back and it's like, holy cow, look at the great things I'm doing. Look what I'm feeding my mind with. Look at the people I'm surrounding myself with that are really feeding positivity into me.
I love that. And, I think there is a big transformation when it comes to I know in my case, I was a high achiever, only child, academically driven. And admitting what I didn't know was huge, because back when I was being brought up, it was a sign of weakness. At least this is what I was telling myself.
Sure.
So for many people, trying to build up that trust to admit that they don't know what they don't know, or even ask for help. There's a lot of people during this pandemic that have had years of doing a career or being in an industry, and the rug was pulled out from underneath them, and now they're starting in entry positions or just starting over completely. So what advice would you give them about, being able to ask for help and just admit what you don't know?
Well, I've been fired 4 times in my life. I'm not obviously proud to admit that, but
Mhm,
I've had those moments where I've hit failure, I've hit that wall, and I've been blessed with some incredible people in my life. Obviously, my wife and my family, my parents, but also some people who have been great mentors to me and who have helped me pull up. And they're like, you know what? Okay, that's over. That's past, right? It's time.
mhm,
It's time to move on to that next opportunity. And the next opportunity is always out there. It may not be right in front of your face, but it's always out there. And again, you keep that steady progress. So when those things happen to me, I got on the phone, I got on the internet, I researched, I reached out to people that who I call in my inner circle, right? That I
mhm,
could people I can count on and trust on to help me and support me. Because again, a mindset shift is difficult enough,
mhm.
but you need others to kind of help you through that and reach out through people. So really, that inner circle has been a big part of helping me get through a lot of those different aspects in my life, and just people. They can give you the confidence, right? But you have to do some reaching out yourself. It's a two-way street, but you have to be willing to reach out and admit those failures that you may have, those weaknesses, those things that you don't know. Uh, talking about looking back at the presidential election, my daughters and I are on different ends of the spectrum, and
Mhm,
we always ask each other to cite your source, right? If you say
mhm.
something about a candidate, cite your source. Where'd you get that information from? We still kind of do it, but yeah, it's who you surround yourself with that can really help a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I can only imagine my husband and, daughters, they have that same type of thing going on, and it may not just be the president, it's all kind of stuff,
Yes,
that they
yeah.
get into this debate about. So, I love that. And, one of the things that kinda keeps me grounded with having an inner circle, so to speak, is, as an only child, I just really was driven, always did well in school, high performer, and I had to really let go of that ego. So one time I was in prayer, and I just had this mindset shift, where I felt the Lord was saying that, Jesus came to save the whole world, and he had 12 disciples. So what made me think I could do it by myself? So,
That's great. That's right.
it just really is something to have that ability to be vulnerable with other people, but, it's so much strength in numbers.
Yeah, that's exact. And I love the word vulnerable. That's really what we have to be able to be. What we have to be. You hear the word transparent, authentic,
Mhm,
vulnerable. All those words are really important so that we can take that criticism from people and to not take it as criticism, but take it as people who care about us, who
mhm,
really want to help us change. And I've had supervisors, bosses who become friends throughout my career. I've had 15 different jobs, so the fact I was fired 4 times isn't too bad. But those people that you can rely on, that you can trust, and but sometimes you have to be willing to take a smack on the side of the head, whether it's from
yeah,
your parents growing up, or whether it's from a coworker or a friend or a supervisor, and then take that and figure, okay, well, you know what, that's true. I do need to make this change. I do need to do these things, and people want to help, right? And
mhm.
but you have to also have to be open and vulnerable and willing to listen to them and take some of their advice.
Yeah, and I think, that is a hard road to kinda go down when you are, We just have this idea in our own mind that, there's failure, there's defeat or judgment, all these other things. So getting past that, I think, is the best thing. I said, hey, I've learned to drop that ego so much because it just bought me a lot of pain, anxiety, and a lot of the fear that you grow for yourself. A lot of times I go back and observe, and it's like that was not even there. That was me making that monster under my bed bigger than what it really was.
Yeah, and a lot of it too comes down to your belief system as well. I had a friend of mine. We were on a Zoom call, and we were he was coaching me through some things, and he said, "Well, Todd, tell me about some of the things you've accomplished in your life." So, I kind of hemmed and hawed, and he said, "Shut up," and I'm like, okay, I'll shut, and he said, "Todd, your belief system is horrible. You have to take those things that you are good about and be proud about them, not to the point where you're arrogant,
Mhm.
but it's good to be proud about the things you do. But if it gets in the way of relationships and becomes the center of who you are, these wonderful things, that's not good. But you can still be proud and of the things you accomplished. You can still be bold and strong, and it's a tough balance, right, between that. Some
Mhm.
people go off and let their ego get in the way, and it can ruin relationships. It can ruin lives. So it's a balancing act, but it's okay to feel good about what you've done as long as you don't let it get in the way of what you want to become and helping others.
So true. One of these quotes that I saw on Facebook comes to mind that just really is in the background in my head all the time. And it was, a lion doesn't go around saying it's a lion. And so for me, I'm like, I shouldn't have to say anything. Whatever I am, other people should be able to notice that about me without me always telling them. And I think that sometimes is a hard thing, because I am in the marketing space and, you can't be open for business if you don't tell people what business you're doing. You know what I'm
That's
saying? You
yeah,
can't.
that's a huge that's been a huge adjustment for me. It's like, Todd, you have to tell people what you do. You have to show your and that, because we're humble people and we don't like to be, bragging and arrogant, but you're really not. All you're doing is saying, "Hey, I'm good at this. I can do this. I can help you in this particular way." And I think more people need to get their message out and they get their even more important, get their story out. You talked about your
Yes.
story and what your battles are, because people need to hear that successful people have gone through challenges in their lives and they've made it through. Obviously not easy, doesn't happen like a microwave, right? It takes time,
Mhm.
it takes that process. But you're exactly right.
Yeah. Now, so, and one of the things that kind of comes to mind is making sure that we're coachable. And a lot of people are out there looking for coaches. They're like, I can't do this by myself. And what are some things that we need to be mindful of as clients of coaches, that make us coachable?
Well, and I think we have to be willing to take that criticism and criticism, positive and negative, but we need to be vulnerable. Again, the word you used before, vulnerable, is such a great word. We need to be willing
Mhm.
to accept that. If you're going to go into a coaching relationship with a chip on your shoulder, it's not going to be very
Mhm.
successful. You have to really kind of open yourself up and open your heart up, open your mind up, and let the person work with you. And a good coach is really going to help you through asking questions, not through telling you what you
Mhm.
have to do, that you
Mhm.
have to go to bed at 7:30, but telling you that you need, you talk about your sleep patterns and what do you do? How are you using your time? The most successful coaches I've had and utilized have done that. And when I coach people, it's the same thing. I do it, and I want a coach who's going to ask me a lot of questions and challenge my thinking to some degree. I think of when I used to work for United Way, and I got a promotion, and I was going to hire my position I was promoted from, and my boss, who was really not a boss, she was a great friend and a coworker and a great mentor. She challenged me during that process. I was going to hire somebody who looked and acted exactly like me, same height, and there was another woman who was a strong Hispanic woman, and I almost didn't hire her because she was was different than me. But Leslie
Mhm.
coached me through that, asked me a lot of questions, didn't tell me you have to hire this minority. She just asked me a
Mhm.
lot of questions about what these different people would bring to our organization. And I'm so happy that I hired Dora. She was a great asset. She challenged me. I challenged her. And the only reason I didn't hire her or wasn't going to hire her was fear, because she was different. And that gets
Mhm.
back to that, differences make us better. So it was such a great opportunity for me to hire a great person, and we had an incredible team. But it gets back to that coaching thing. Leslie didn't tell me what to do
Mhm.
as my coach. She asked questions and helped guide me through and helping me think different. And that's really where a coach can help you.
I love that because I think so often we think that different is wrong
Yeah.
rather than different being another perspective. And I tell a lot of my clients that, there's more than one hamburger spot. Everybody's not a McDonald's, and we just think, oh my goodness, I'm a coach. There's already enough coaches out there. There's just no room for me. And, we get into this comparison about the differences rather than being able to expand on the things that we have in common, working together, bringing different views to the table. So I love that you mentioned that. And so, when you think about routines in your morning and how that prepares you, for looking out for interaction, communication, different people. What do you think your morning routine does for you, and what does that actually consist of?
Well, I think it gets me in that right mindset. It gets me thinking positive. Oftentimes, I'm guessing that people pick up their phone in the morning and jump into Facebook because they want to see what everybody else is doing. Well, the first
Mhm.
thing I do is I have a Bible app on my phone, and I do some reading there and some listening to people who have video clips. I watch Matthew Kelly is another a faith-based person. I watch some of his videos and read some of those things because I want to start filling my mind with things that are important and valuable and will get me off to the right start. No matter how bad a day I had yesterday, I woke up this morning, and I had a good day yesterday, but I woke up this
Mhm.
morning, and I started reading that and getting my mind in the right space, in the right mindset, thinking positively, and then build from there. Now, I will admit, eventually I did spend a little bit of time on Facebook because I do a lot of posting on there myself. But first, I made sure I got my mind in the right place. The other thing is you were talking about differences and taking in different styles too. I watch, like at lunch, I might do some mind numbing thing. I'll turn on the TV, but I'll flip between Fox and CNN and MSNBC because I
Mhm.
want to hear the different opinions, because no matter where I sit, by listening to other people and different thoughts, it's going to help me be more confident about the way I'm thinking. I'm not, I don't want to get
Mhm.
into an argument with people, but I
Mhm.
want to hear other people's opinions because that's going to help me formulate mine better. And I may be wrong, or maybe I need to tweak it, or maybe there is that source out there that helps me think differently. So
Mhm.
reaching out and finding those different, now that that's maybe a sillier example, but again, back to finding those differences and use it as a learning opportunity. But again, I start my day with those positive things and really try to feed my mind in a positive way to get things going.
I love that. So do you listen to, is that you version that you do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yep.
do. I do the same thing. I love those different studies that they have. It's been a while since I've done one, but the little Bible plans that they have.
Yeah. There's like 3-day plans and 7-day
Mhm.
plans, and
Mhm.
yeah. So I flip around on those, and once, like, actually I just got done. John Maxwell had a 30-day plan on the Bible app, so
Uh-huh.
I went through that, and it's a couple minutes in the morning and some
Right.
reflection, and you have somebody that does a little video clip, and
Mhm.
then I do some other things as well. So yeah, it's not, just again, it kind of gets you going in the morning and gets you off to the
Mhm.
right kind of start for the day. So yeah, that's funny. I enjoy that.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, this has just been a wonderful conversation. I'm hoping everybody took notes. That's one of the things that I tell people is that, we can listen to information all day, every day, but it's a little better if we take notes because we might be more conscious of taking action, with some of the things that we're hearing. So, what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
Well, they can take my first name and last name.com. That's the website, toddkuckkahn.com, TODDKUCKKAHN.com. That's a great way. I'm also post very regularly on LinkedIn and Facebook. So if someone wants to message me through either of those, I usually put a daily. I'm going to be doing one here in a few minutes as well. And so yeah, those are some ways to reach out to me. And I think just have a conversation. I'm more than happy to get on a Zoom call with somebody for half an hour, have a casual conversation, maybe a little strategy. And if you don't want to do work with me, that's fine. But
Mhm.
at least talk to people and start getting some ideas of the possibilities. And there are so many possibilities out there. Keep listening to this podcast because there may be another guest that comes along, or obviously working with you. Just keep opening up your mind and trying different things and listen and read and you can fight through it with the help of others.
I love that. I was listening to an interview with Jordan Peterson. He's an author, and he was saying that when we talk, we're actually able to think. And so much of that resonates with me because, when you're in that cycle of isolation,
Yeah.
dealing with whatever problem or obstacle you're trying to overcome, you're not talking much. You are just kind of like listening to your own thoughts and ideas that may not serve you. So, just being able to have a conversation is huge. And also, I want to also point out about asking questions. You're so right because we really have our own inner compass, but sometimes, other things just get us distracted and diverted in different directions. And when you're able to come back to center and ask questions and start really thinking, is this serving me? That's when change can happen. So, love all those things that you mentioned. So, what final words would you like to leave with the audience today?
Well, again, I think focus. You can make changes. You can be different, but it's what you feed your mind, right? It's those positive things you can feed your mind through reading, listening, whatever the case might be. So shift and feed your mind those positive things, and I think you'll see some changes. And give it a chance. Give it a chance
Mhm.
as well.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Todd, for coming today. And this has just been a great conversation. So I appreciate all the insights that you shared. And for those of you that are watching, I encourage you to follow Todd on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I love what he said. Just have a conversation. It is amazing how much a conversation can do to really change the trajectory of your day, your week. Something that you say with one person can make all the difference. So I encourage you to reach out to them. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And if something that was said really resonated with you, just share it with one friend.
Yeah.
If we all share this with one person, it's amazing how we can make change in the world. So, again, Todd, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It was great and a great way to start my day.
Awesome. Well, we love that you guys spent some time with us today, and we look forward to seeing all of you on the next episode. Bye for now.